Have your tea with you?
I do have my tea. Well, it's water. It's water. I'm not gonna lie, but it looks like tea.
I have tea. I have chamomile tea. I just got this really cute cup. I went to the antique store. Isn't it cute?
Oh, that's so nice.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Tea Time with Jesus. Today, I am with one of my beautiful, lovely friends, Nava. Say hi.
Hi, guys. Hi.
So today we're going to talk on a topic that we're both on each end of the spectrum. We're going to talk about content and singleness. Now, I thought this would be a great topic to talk about with her because she has a book on this topic, like such an accomplished woman. She has a book. She also has like a little newspaper. It's adorable. If you guys want to check it out, the links will be in the description. And she's just an amazing woman of God. And especially if you need any advice on this topic, check out her Instagram. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, content and singleness. I'm in my single season and you are married, right? You have a beautiful baby boy.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to talk about in this tea time, why it's important, why we think it's important for us to be content in our singleness, why we think, and how to apply it to our lives realistically. Like, what does that even look like?
Okay, I love this topic because it's one thing all of us girls could always relate to, right? Like it's something all of us girls, I mean, some girls don't want to get married and don't really think about it, and that's totally fine, fair game. But I love that it always brings women together. Like if you ask them, are you dating or do you have a boyfriend? It automatically gets girls excited. So I love this topic. It's been such a cool journey for me. I feel like I wasn't necessarily on my hands and knees, but I watched all the movies. I watched all the TV shows. I watched everything that made you excited for love, and the kind of love where it's raining outside and he's calling your name.
Yes, the ultra
Notebook style.
We're both romantics. So like I said, you guys probably know this if you've watched my videos. I'm in my single season and I have been my whole life. And I think one of the number one questions I get asked by so many of my girlfriends that I meet, or even you guys online, you're like, how are you just so content with it? Like, it doesn't bother you. You're not like depressed about it. And Nava and I were talking on the phone, and she had, we were talking about this topic. And so one of the things that I had said that I tell every single girl is like, any void or any like emptiness that I could ever feel, that I ever want a boyfriend or a guy to replace in my life or fill in my life, God's already doing it. He's already filling those voids, whatever it may be for you individually, like what you seek from a guy, whether it's love. Like, I know that I am so loved. I don't feel unloved because I let God shower me in his love. I don't feel that need to have all of that, like need for excess love. I'm like, I have it. I have so much of it. Or loneliness. Like, I never feel lonely because I spend all of that time with God, all of my free time with God. I let him be, my first love, my best friend. And I think that that's so important. Whether it's comfort, if you're seeking comfort from a guy, God is the ultimate comforter. Like, the Father is the ultimate comforter, and he is just the inventor of peace. So I think any sort of area that I've ever had lacking in my life that like typically you would think a husband is supposed to fill, which eventually he will, but before then, I think it's just really important to sort of have God sort of fill that, and also to just sort of like find your identity and your purpose in God first before you wait for a man to come fill that for you. I think that that's really important as well, because I think a lot of girls like wait for their man to come fix them and wait for him to come and help them figure themselves out. And I think it's just really important to sort of do that yourself. Like, your single time is such like a prepping season. Like, it's such like a growing time that, of course, you're still going to grow with your husband, but it's so important for you to have that like one-on-one with God and growing season.
Yes. Oh my gosh, completely. As you were talking about like that void, the Lord was reminding me as I was getting ready just now. I messaged Kelsey. I was like, I feel the presence of God so strong in my room. I was about to cry, and I was like, Nava, don't cry. The makeup's on. I feel good. My son is with my husband. But it's been so powerful because I feel like as I look back at my time when I was single, I feel like the Lord, this is so important for girls to understand. There's so much that guys can give, but they can't fulfill. Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful because when you as a woman are whole, you're not needing anything from a man. And that's so important. And that's so sexy about a woman. Like, when a woman is whole, it's so beautiful to a man. Like, I remember even in my season of wholeness, I'm becoming whole through Yeshua. I call him Yeshua. Jesus in Hebrew is Yeshua. I'm Israeli. I'm here in Israel, by the way, doing this live.
I can't wait.
And so,
yeah, I'm gonna move in with her one day. I'm just gonna come on over and never leave.
Yes, you're always welcome. I told you that on the phone where I'm going to take you everywhere. But it's been so cool because in my season of finding wholeness, one thing that the Lord really he healed my heart from also relationships. So in my season of waiting for my husband, waiting for that man, it stopped becoming about the man and it started becoming about the man himself, like Yeshua. And like, it's been so cool because in that season of finding wholeness, the main thing that I wanted back, Kelsey, was my purity. Mm-hmm. Now, some women, like, no judgment from my side, I wasn't a virgin. And I remember in that season of I started following the Lord, and then I kind of wanted to give myself a space to just get close to the Lord again. Mm-hmm. I hadn't before. I met the Lord actually when I was in Australia. I grew up in a Christian family, but I love to party. I love to do my own thing. Not that partying is bad, but there was something in me that was fulfilling in it. And I wasn't walking closely to the Lord. So here I go to Australia. The Lord meets me. Anyways, I get totally wrecked by the Father. Like, he's so good. He meets everything inside of me that was completely shattered and broken and starts putting me back together. And in that season of putting back together of wholeness, I felt like the Lord was like, Nava, give me this time. Give me this time. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And so as I did that, it came from me. I was like, God, I want to become pure again. I want my purity back. Even though the enemy didn't steal it from me, I gave it away freely. You know what I mean? When I say that, I think some things as believing girls, the enemy can come and try to take different areas of our life, like anxiety, depression, all those things. But I found this scenario that I had given something so precious to me away. So it was beautiful how the Lord brought wholeness in that through purity. And you know what I did? This might make no sense to some women, but I think it will, as you listen to me share about it, is I feel like the Lord told me to take communion every single day to get my purity back, not just purity physically, but in my mind, because I had experienced something that I wanted to experience with my husband. And there was purity that I wanted to be restored. And so just so beautiful. That's just one piece. Like, there were so many areas of wholeness that the Lord is so sovereign to give us women. Mm-hmm. Just ask. I feel like the Lord is just ask me, what do you want? What do you want? And I actually started becoming so content without having someone in my life because I was starting to get whole again. Before, I needed a guy to fill that brokenness that was in me by needing something from it. And all of a sudden, I didn't need a guy. I always wanted to get married, but I didn't need to get married. Does that make any sense?
No, 100% makes sense. And it's great because it's such an easy answer to the question, because God's the only thing ever that can bring that sort of newness. Nothing can renew you like God does. But speaking on what you just said, like, you wanted a husband but didn't need it, I want to talk about this, which wasn't something I put in our notes, but it like came to me this morning. I was like, oh, I should say that. So this is going to sound so weird until I explain it again. Like, idolatry. Anything in your life can be an idol if you want it and pursue it more than God. And I know so many girls who are not even aware that they idolize having a husband and pursue that more than they pursue God. Now, anything in your life, if you're like kind of wondering, like, how do I know if something's an idol? Like, how do I know if it's not just like a pure desire? Okay, so think about it this way. If you really want something in your life and now God came to you and was like, you know what, this isn't my will, I'm going to change your path. Would that wreck you? Like, or would you just be like, okay, you need to be at a point where you can surrender anything. Like, for me, it wasn't relationships for me, but that was something with like my job, my career. Like, I'm a workaholic and I love my job. Like, I love working in fashion, but it was definitely kind of like the number one thing in my life. Like, it was my crutch. It was my comfort. It was my joy. And so I had to get to a point where I was like, you know what, if this isn't God's will for my life, like, I love God more than this thing. You know, like, of course I have the desire and I want to pursue this thing, but if it becomes bigger than God, where you're going to start questioning God and doubting God, if it's not working out the way you plan it, we need to learn to surrender control. Like, that's hard for me because I'm a control freak. Like, I can admit that. God and I are having like a little wrestling growth season right now in control. Like, I am learning to like surrender things to him, but especially when it comes to searching for a man, because we don't know things. Like, we don't know who the guy is. Obviously, there's so many questions when it comes to dating. Like, we don't know we're going to meet him. We don't know when it is. God is perfect and sovereign. Like, he knows all those things. Like, he cares about the big and the little. He cares about your relationship. Like, that's a big deal. I'm the type of person, I believe that God has like a specific person already planned out.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Soulmates thing. Like, that's me. I believe
Yes.
it's very like poetic love. So I think that like if you're willing to believe that God is the creator of the universe, that God can give you eternal life, like you don't think he can give you a husband? Like you don't think he knows that, and you don't trust that he has perfect timing. So it's definitely like a surrendering moment as well of not, taking it into your own hands and being like, let me go out on dates, let me search for the guy, like let me try to make these like movie moments myself. Like once you really just like throw your hands up and like just focus on God, he will bring it to you. My favorite verse literally applies to every single thing in my life. So I'm glad that I memorized it. Is Matthew 6:33. Seek first his kingdom and righteousness, and all those things will be given unto you. When you seek God first, literally all those things will start flooding. Like all of those doors that are meant for you will start opening. Don't like go knocking on each door, figuring out like he will bring what's right. You won't have to go through all of those like failed trials and like heartbreaks through dating like over and over again. Like once you're seeking him, I believe that it will happen. Like he will see your faithfulness and that he will provide it for you.
Oh my gosh, totally. I think he is such a good father. Like I
He's a
could cry.
gentleman too. God
Yes, he is.
Example too.
He is. Oh my gosh. I remember so many times, like because I made my season of being close to him, I made him everything to me. It was so beautiful because you know what, Kelsey, I have learned how to use my imagination to invite him into my space. So I love, and I think you're like this too, I love using my imagination, and any woman does, because that's what we do with movies. We watch a movie and that picture stays in our mind and it sets a bar, an expectation of what our husband's going to look like. And that's great. And I know a lot of people say don't do that, but actually I think it's healthy to stir up an excitement for romance. But that kind of romance, I agree, is unrealistic. But when you spend time with Jesus, when you spend time with Yeshua, he gives you the most realistic version of the best man possible. And that's him. And when you set the bar with him, then any man that comes close to you, you will automatically compare him to him. Yeah. And that's important because if you've dated a great guy in the past, naturally, you'll always compare a guy to the greatest guy in your life. Yeah. But if you actually spent a season so close to Jesus, that you would understand what a gentleman he is. Like he's so kind, he's so sweet. All he wants to do is constantly come close and just, Kelsey, I remember so many times when I would be sitting and talking to my friends, and I'm a friend of God. I don't say that lightly, but I know I am because I spend a lot of time with him. Mm-hmm. And so it's so cool. I have so many memories, especially when I was single. When I remember this one time, I'm sitting and talking to this girl, and I felt Jesus just come, and he put his head on me, on my shoulder. I'm mid conversation with this girl, and like I wasn't alone in my room worshiping. I was out socializing, having fun, feeling great. And he just comes, and I felt his presence so strong. And it's like he like put his head on me and he was staring at me. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, how am I supposed to focus on this conversation with this girl? Right. And I was like, I feel like the Lord in that moment was like, Nava, he's as real as you make him to be. Mm-hmm. If you want him to be everything in your life, all it takes is giving him space to be everything in your life. Mm-hmm. And I made it. I need like to touch him. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of those people that I need physical touch. Mm-hmm. And so that's been the hardest thing for me with my walk with the Father. And with Jesus being like, Jesus, I want you to hug me right now. I need you right now, especially in the moments of singleness, when loneliness feels like an empty pit and you're just falling deeper and deeper into the space of like, will there ever be someone that really loves me? And I feel like the Lord has taught me this as well, that this is another reason why I love communion. I can share more about it on a different time. Anyone can message me about it. But the Lord told me that communion is the only physical way I could touch Jesus on this side of heaven. It's the only way I can touch him with my physical hands, and I can touch him on this side of heaven. And that was so important for me because I'm a physical touch kind of girl. I need to know. And I feel like I get to embrace him in that moment, you know? So I love using what you're saying. I just wanted to echo that. I love using my imagination to make him real. Like he's real to me. He's real in my place, you know? Yeah, no, I know. And it's so funny what you said about setting like the bar and expectations with God, because I was talking about that with one of my other girlfriends. She was like, you have such high standards. And I'm like, yeah, literally like God is like low-key my boyfriend right now. Like, of course my standards are high.
Like, what is there that a
That's
guy
so
can give me
good.
that I'm not already being given? You know what I mean?
Come on. That's
So
so
yeah.
beautiful.
So do you have any like aftermath advice for the girls out there that are looking for a relationship or pursuing a relationship? I thought it would be really cool for you to share the story that you shared with me that's also in your book about like how we were saying people are like, how do you know it's him when you know? And people are like, you'll know when you know. Like, do you want
Yeah.
to share what happened to you? So how you know? Because I think it's cool because I'm also like that too with you where like I like need like a sign. Like I'm like a tangible
Yeah.
sign. Like I have inside jokes with God. I do. Like we have
Yeah.
inside jokes. Like we have special songs too. Like how you do with your boyfriend or something. Like we have
I
special
love
songs.
that.
Like we have inside jokes. And so I feel like he uses those all the time to like talk to me. So I love what yours was. So I wanted you to share that. I thought it was really cool.
Oh, I totally have. You know what my recent song with Jesus is Justin Bieber's song Too Much.
No
Because
way.
it talks
Justin
about how
Bieber.
he can't. I love it. That's the way I feel about the Father. Like when he's not around, I miss him. 2 minutes is too long. Like I want him to be a part of my life all day, every day. But yes, okay, with my husband. So it's a cool story.
Okay.
I always heard people say what you just said, like you'll know when you know. And that was my question. I was like, how do you
I'm a
know?
logical person. Like you can't leave things up to
Yes.
my imagination. I'm like, what does that
No.
mean? Like I need a specific answer.
I love that. And that's good. I feel like the Lord's created us like that. So for me, in my dating life before, I was so awful. I would really like a guy. And then all of a sudden I just wasn't interested. I would break up with a guy and he'd be like, what did I do? What happened? I was like, I had no words. I was just like, I don't know. I'm not there. That would happen to me so many times. I was like, something is wrong with me. Like, so it's cool because when I would always ask people, how do you know? Because I always thought, well, here I am. I'm going to get excited about a guy. I think he's my husband. Then all of a sudden, I'm not really going to be into it anymore. And so the Lord, I was just walking in my house one day. I remember it literally like it was yesterday. And I felt the Father's voice. It wasn't like a echo from heaven, Nava. It was just like that sweet, tender, like gentleman voice that is so kind and so soft. And I just felt him say, you'll know he's your husband when he washes your feet. And I was like, what? Like it was so out of nowhere that I knew it was God.
Yeah, that's how
I
you
was like,
know.
what in the
It's so
world?
random. I'm like, my brain would never come up with that. Like, it's not
Exactly.
all you were thinking about.
Exactly. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, I wasn't even thinking about this. I don't even know where this came from. And so I felt like the Father was like, you'll know, he said that literally like that. You'll know he's your husband when he washes your feet. It had no context. I was just walking around. I was alone at home. It didn't make sense, but it did make sense. And so I was like, okay, in this season, I'm not dating anyone. I'm completely like alone. Right. And so it was so cool. Cause like fast forward later, a year later, my husband now, he came to visit in Israel. And when he was visiting in Israel, he came over. We right away clicked. It happened so naturally. And it was so beautiful because, okay, so we fell in love in Israel. Like it was love at first sight. And it was beautiful. Then we get on a flight and we're on the flight to Cyprus because his family were going to Cyprus after Israel. And they asked me, do you want to come with us? And I was like, yeah. And they knew we were kind of falling in love. So they wanted me to stay close by. Funny story, his mom always knew that I was going to be his, we were family friends, but I hadn't seen my husband in 6 years in that season. And so his mom later told me she always knew that I was going to be his wife.
You're like, why didn't
Which
you
I love that. Yes, it just makes it so cool. So anyways, and we get onto the flight. When we're on the flight, he said, last night, because we're part of like a worship thing the night before. And he said, during the worship thing, I felt like I was supposed to wash your feet, but I feel like it was going to freak your dad out. And this was just a couple days into us dating, not dating, sorry, a couple days into us hanging out. I hadn't seen him in 6 years, day like 4 or 5 of us hanging out. So I was like, what? He literally says that, and me in my mind, I'm like, what in the world? So I right away remembered what the Lord said. It was instant. So then he just said that, and I was like, okay, but we're on a flight. A couple of days later, we're getting to know each other more and more. And he said, one night we were talking and he was like, can I wash your feet now? And I didn't manipulate it. I didn't push it. He said it and I let it go. You know what I mean? It was so cool how God was just like, let me orchestrate your love story. I want to be the one part of your love story.
Yeah.
And so it was so cool. So we go in the bathroom and it was like 12 o'clock at night because I was staying in the room with his mom and he was staying in the room with his dad, but we're hanging out in like the living room. And it was so cool. He literally comes up to me and he was like, let's go. So we go in the bathroom, and as he's washing my feet, like the presence of the Lord falls so strong in the bathroom. And the Lord you know how he said, you'll know he's your husband when he washes your feet. In that moment, I didn't see Emmanuel, is my husband's name. I saw Jesus, and I felt like he was like, this is your husband. Like it happened just so beautifully.
And to wait, ladies, this is why it's important to not settle. See, God, like
exactly.
You orchestrated that. You couldn't have put that together.
Never.
That was God. See, I feel like it's so important, like not to settle. Like if you believe that God can do something like this, if you believe that he has all this work, like he will give it to you if you are faithful and you wait. I think it's so important because then you'll have beautiful experiences like this. You'll have an amazing testimony like Nava to give to other girls and all your other friends, you know?
Yes. And you know what? You want a love story that you tell your kids about, and your kids are like, whoa, that's my mom and dad's story.
Definitely. I
think you got to give it up first.
Yep.
Sorry, you go.
No. No, we're like,
I'm so excited.
I know. We're like both so excited. Like, yes. Okay. So do you have any like closing, like last words? Like if you were like, this is what I need to tell you now, since I think it's more important for you to say, because like I'm still in the season with them. I'm like, girls, I don't know what to tell you either. I'm just minding my business. I'm keeping myself busy. But I think it's such an attractive trait. That's something that you were talking about too, that you were like, it's so attractive to be like a woman with purpose and like a woman with drive and a woman like in love with God. Like that will make a man of God. What was I trying to say? A man of God attracted to you. So do you have any like last final finishing words, like any advice that you'd give to the ladies out there who really need it?
Yes, I would say let go of, this is such a beautiful season of you being single. Let go of all the masks. You know, when you're in high school, when you're in college, when you're in this. Yes, get to know you, pull out all those masks and just look at yourself in the mirror, raw, real question, being like, who am I? And as you look in the mirror, remember, this is so important. The Lord once told me to watch Snow White. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to talk to me about my future husband. Like the Lord talks to me through movies. You said like through music, he talks to me through movies. So he said, go watch Snow White. So a couple of days later, I'm watching Snow White. I'm like, he is going to give me a prophetic word over my husband. So I'm watching 5 minutes and the mom is looking in the mirror. And I feel like the Lord said, Nava, you keep asking for affirmation from the mirror when I want to give you affirmation. And I was like, oh, that's so good. Because what was the woman doing? She was asking, who's the most beautiful woman of them all? And in the season of your waiting, maybe the enemy's attacking the part of your beauty, saying you're not this enough, you're not that enough, you're not skinny enough, your hair's not this enough, you're no whatever, your heart, your creativity, you're never going to find a guy that likes you because you're too much, you're too this. And I want to tell you, you're not too much. You grow in who you are, you stay who you are, and you just take every mask off that anyone has ever tried to put on you other than the Father, but the Father would never put a mask on you because he created you the way you are supposed to be.
Like the things that are part of your personality that make you a little different that maybe the typical guy wouldn't like. I think that that's kind of already placed in your husband's heart. Like it's an attribute he's looking for. Like for me personally with a guy, like I have like a really weird type. Like it's not like the typical type, like what I like. And I'm sure there's some guy out there that might feel insecure about those things. Like, oh, like girls aren't into this, but like I'm into that, you know? And like, but it's because he's my husband, those attributes are already in my heart, you know? So I feel that's a very big thing that I learned in my season of singleness is to just like not really please anybody. Because also if you're changing yourself for a guy to like you, that's not the guy, obviously, because your attributes aren't already in his heart. I think that's so important. So that's why it's really nice to use the single season to get to know yourself and to just be who you really are, so that by the time God brings that guy, like you're already like his dream girl. Like you're just there.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I told you this. I mean, okay, I know we need to wrap up. This is my last thing I want to say.
Sure.
Whenever I asked my husband afterwards, I was like, what made you fall in love with me? Because, you know, it could be, you could say I have big lips. I don't know. You could say anything. Yeah. And what he said was the way I pray. I am such, as you can tell, I'm a very passionate person. So when I pray, I love to give the Father, like I love him. He deserves to be loved. And so when I pray, and whenever I pray in front of people, I have no fear. Like I have no fear. If I'm in church and the Lord's like, Nava, speak out that I'm the light, I'll be like, God, you're such a light. Like I'm not afraid. Like so he said that's what he loves about me. The way I pray. And who would have thought?
I love that. That is so cute.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
gosh, I
love
love
it.
that. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, she is like an expert on this topic. She has amazing like boy talks and questionnaires on her Instagram. I'm always seeing you give the greatest advice. So if you guys want any more advice on this topic, if this is something you're really, pressing into looking towards, go to her Instagram and check out her book. I will have that on the link in the description for you guys to check out because she's an amazing blessed
Thank
woman of God and she
you.
has a great story. So also if you're interested in her story more, you can go check that out. But if you guys have any questions on this topic still, make sure to leave any comments below. I love to go through there and like either read your testimonies or answer your questions. Both of our DMs are open if you guys have any questions for us as well. But thank you so much, Nava, for joining this episode. I
Oh my
love
gosh.
having you on.
Thank you.
Like, I feel like if we come up with another topic, she will be back on. Like, I love doing
Yes.
this. It's so fun.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. I will see you in the next episode.